Hello, everyone. Welcome to the NIM Community Call. Welcome all NIMsters. Welcome all privacy advocates. Welcome all crypto freaks, basement dwellers, and everybody in between. My name is Theo Goodman, and I'm joined here today by none other than the infamous Exiled Surfer. Welcome.
In his basement, dwelling.
In his basement dwelling, as we
if
all
you
do
want,
sometimes.
if you want to be private, you got to have a basement. I guess they're called man caves these days, right?
It could be. It could be. Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, yeah, actually, let's get right into it. Why Exiled Surfer? Tell us. Tell us about the name.
Well, I started using it as my artist name when I was doing live VJing in the 90s. And the reason why I chose to use it is because there's a political writer named Michael Parenti, uh, and he owned the Google results in the 90s. And we had similar politics. Actually, even met him once. He came to lecture at my university. I studied international politics at Pepperdine in America. And my professor, my docent, was like really excited. He's like, "Hey, Michael Parenti is coming. I'm going to introduce you." And he was like, "Hey, Michael Parenti, here's Michael Parenti." And we both like stood there, sort of like, yeah, right, sort of thing.
That's
But
wild.
so that was the reason that I started using my artist name, Exiled Surfer, and Exiled Surfer because I'm originally from Malibu, California, and not really living there anymore. So kind of like an exile away from the beach. So just a reference to where it is that I come from and where I'm not going back to.
Right. So you truly are in exile, and but now you're surfing the web.
Yeah, I've always been surfing the web. I've been surfing the web since there has been a web. Actually, that's why I went to university, was to get an email address when it was just ARPANET, and Pepperdine was one of the universities that was hooked up, and so that was the point, to have free internet. So put myself through 4 years of
Yeah.
school, to get free internet.
Yeah. That's a really good point. I don't think people realize. So back in the early day, like dark ages now, it wasn't easy to have your own internet connection, or a lot of people didn't have it, and so you went to the university library a lot of times, or just
That's right.
some like computer lab, and even if you weren't a student, just acted like a student, maybe depending on the university, and you could get online. You could get online for unlimited time, which was also a big deal sometimes, because a lot of times it was 1 hour, and then you had to sign a sheet, and it showed your log in time, log out time, etc. So that was a big deal. So yeah, well, tell us about back then. Like, how was activism back then? Were you already involved in internet activism, political activism back then? Tell us about it.
Yeah, so the web felt like the free world back then. We had user groups. It was all text based. There was a great place called the Well, and that was where all of the authors and the thinkers and the nerds met. Bruce Sterling. People still, there's a yearly wrap up every year, so it was quite America based at that time, and it felt like a place of freedom, right? But which is kind of really a contradiction in terms, because as I mentioned, so the was financed and funded by DARPA, which is the investment arm of the American government, and it hooked together the universities that were doing research for the military industrial complex in
Yeah.
California, Arizona, and that was the whole point. So the surveillance, or the fact that the government knows what you're doing online has pretty much been baked in since the beginning. They're at every node and
Definitely.
every corner of it, right? But we were quite naive, and we thought, oh yeah, it's a free place. We can say whatever it is that we want, do whatever it is that we want, because there wasn't really, police presence in those times, and there wasn't really, the knowledge. It was like a really super nerdy thing. It was guys from the chess club, and the computer nerds and whatever, and then the freaks, and then the people that were into, like zines and stuff, right? It was the first place that you could have like really niche knowledge, all the stuff,
Yeah.
and then people started getting online more and more. You had these online text-based forums, right? But the internet's always been really super toxic. People talk about how Twitter now and social media and everything, they think it's so toxic. No,
Definitely.
it's always been toxic, and there's always been government surveillance is what it is I'd like to, share about it. So of course we were politically active. I mean, you're out there, screaming into the void and organizing about the little niche issues that matter to you. And so the internet had this sort of, utopian dream of being the library of the world and everybody being connected. It has that aspect of California utopianism. And yet side by side, there's this dystopian aspect to it, which has resulted in the financialization of surveillance capitalism. It was kind of inevitable, and we were quite naive about it. We didn't bake really privacy into the internet in the early days, right? And then
It's
with the
true. Yeah, it wasn't built. It wasn't built with privacy. Some people even say it was built with surveillance built in, but people just didn't see it. And that's also interesting. You brought up government funding of internet infrastructure. I mean, that's one of the reasons, NIM has VC funding, private funding, and it's not a nonprofit. If NIM was a nonprofit, then it would depend on government grants, like other projects. So it's going a different way. So I think that's a good parallel there. All right, well, let's fast forward. What now?
You can make the argument about being beholden to any capital, and whether or not
you can,
or any of the VCs are actually locked into, to what degree they're locked into the system it is that we have. People can make arguments about that, and I think that that's one of the. I mean, NIM's been around for quite some time. I mean, to get back to it, I was in the original Keybase chat, I think in 2018, when we were on Keybase, and it was like 8 people in the NIM chat. And because Harry had announced NIM at HCPP at Parallelly Polis, and I introduced him and that thing, and so that was like 6 months after I had known about it. I knew Harry from CCC, which is the German arm of the Computer Chaos Club, of which Parallelly Polis did Hackers Congress Parallelly Polis to differentiate themselves. So I've been seeing and speaking with Harry for multiple years, prior to NIM, because we had Tor, the previous generation that was always being talked about at CCC, Roger Dingledine and Zuko and, Julian Assange and Jacob Applebaum and all of these, Meredith Patterson, Len Sassaman, all these people that are being talked about now were, involved in computer science and privacy things and freedom technologies before Bitcoin came along, right? So I've been aware of NIM quite from the early days, and been involved in and out of watching the development and seeing it progress. And I wanted to give that background before I before I actually say what I wanted to say is that I think that early on that NIM didn't get the kind of traction that it deserved from people in the crypto economic or the cryptocurrency side of crypto, because it had a token, right? And because it had VC funding. And I was always making the argument that, regardless of whether it is that you believe in the tokenomics and whether Bitcoin should be the only thing that's used for something like that or not, denominated in Bitcoin only and not in a separate token, is we need to play around with these different models, and we need to have different ways to put skin in the game and look and see like which economic models are going to function, and this is it's at a counter to what nobody wants to pay for anything on the internet, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to pay for anything. It's a constant race to the bottom. So how do you incentivize and maintain the privacy, aspects of a mixnet network. NIM's not the only one that's out there that's playing with gossip protocols and mixnets. But having a token to incentivize the security of the network is something that the Bitcoin white paper and Bitcoin in and of itself establishes being a valid way to approach things. Yeah. So I've always been pro experimentation and pro modeling. Yeah. So yeah.
Yes, definitely. So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, let's fast forward to HCCP. So Hackers Congress just had its last Hackers Congress, and I mean, it would take us more than a whole show to explain to people what that was, but maybe there's some key things that you can say that were good about the whole Congress and the organization, and some key things that did not work out.
Yeah, so a little bit of just a very TLDR. Parallelly Polis was a building that was started by a group of artists and technology and makerspace people in Prague 11 years ago that started doing a yearly conference. And it was where the early Bitcoiners met and where some of the earliest Bitcoin companies' products were announced and tried out, like Trezor and Slush Pool, the first Bitcoin mining pool, and first General Bytes, the first Bitcoin ATM, were early supporters. And so a lot of the early Bitcoiners were there, and it was a place where that was crypto only, right? So if you wanted to buy a coffee, you had to.
Yeah, so you could only. So guys, so everyone watching, yeah. So it was it's a venue in Prague, and had the Bitcoin Cafe, and you had to pay only in Bitcoin or Litecoin, and then later they had Lightning Network, and maybe on some events they had Monero. But yeah, you could only pay for the coffee, cake, sandwiches, snacks with that. They had a co-working space, seminar room, and they did this major event every year, the Hackers Congress Parallel Polis, that we're speaking about. And just recently, it had the 11th edition, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, the last event of it. And NIM was involved in a lot of these events. I think almost half of them. Maybe NIM presented something. I was at 5 or 6 of them myself, and there were, yeah, definitely very unique events bringing together crypto anarchists, Bitcoiners, technologists from all kinds of different perspectives, and kind of having this really interesting meeting, essentially. So that's the short version of how I would kind of describe that.
Yeah. So, and it was the Institute of Crypto Anarchy is one floor of it, and then Paper Hub was the second floor, and the first floor was Bitcoin Coffee, and then in the basement is Bordel, a hacker makerspace. And so, there was a lot of discussions and arguments about the purity of crypto anarchist ideals and whether it is that you interface with the state, and the people that ran the building, were getting sued by the government for using the word currency, to describe Bitcoin. So it was a politically active place in the early days, which was trying to, live purely on a circular economy, a Bitcoin standard. And over the years, as these cryptocurrencies became more popular, there became more and more difficulties in maintaining, a very, very pure crypto anarchist, sort of like house. And so there's, tensions in that movement. And then the reality of keeping, a building that costs $250,000 a year to run, right, to keep the lights on and keep people in there, right? You only get so many people that are willing to volunteer their time for so long before it is that their passion and their intrinsic motivators run out, and they need extrinsic support to pay their rent, right? So any location has those sort of tensions. And I mean, Seabase has them as well. All of the maker spaces, all of the hacker spaces across Europe that have interfaced with the idea of, circular economies using cryptocurrencies have, gone through their debates and their tensions politically, and also in reality of just paying your electric bill, right? So how do you,
Yeah.
right? So those sort of tensions, had something to do with the lifespan of the project, and then also the people getting older and moving on to other companies or projects and things in the space. So there's a natural sort of, change that happens with any alternative space, any temporary autonomous zone. Yeah, and either then there's people who take over from the earlier generation who are leaving for whatever reason because they have kids or because now they're rich in crypto and they want to do other shit and travel, right? Or whatever. And so you have all this interpersonal dialogue and all these interpersonal, and organizational things that are super, super messy.
Yeah.
Like it is on Twitter,
Messy.
right? We all know each
Yeah.
other and there's all this human, drama going on, and it's totally normal. And so Parallelly Polis reached an end of life phase where we started looking at, okay, what have we really accomplished with, crypto anarchy? What have we really accomplished as cypherpunks, right? And so
Mhm.
over the last few years, we were examining those with the topics of the conference very, very openly, with each other, arguing and discussing, purity tests and what it means to be these things, and should we still be these things, right? And now it's generational change. The name of the house is changing. It's going to be called, instead of Parallelly Polis, now it's called Second Culture. And there'll still be a yearly event where we all come together and examine things with intellectual curiosity and challenging, each other about freedom technologies. But we don't have a name yet. It doesn't mean it also won't be called
Okay.
Hackers Congress.
That's what I
Parallelly
wanted.
Polis. We don't really
That's what I
know.
wanted to ask next. What's the name? What's the name? Third culture, second culture, third culture, second
Yeah. So
culture Congress. A little bit on
the
the
official
nose.
name of the business now is called Second Culture, and the name of
Okay.
the house is called Second Culture, and it's officially a co-working space because the co-working space pays the bills to keep the location going. There's still
Yeah.
be able to pay with Bitcoin and Litecoin and do all those things in the Bitcoin coffee on the ground floor. We still have the Institute of Crypto Anarchy where people can rent, to do events and whatever. And then we still plan on doing Pizza Day every year, and also to be doing a yearly Hackers Congress to be named, right?
Hmm.
So it's not
Well,
really.
that's good to hear. That's good to
I'm
hear.
I'd like to come back to a question that I saw coming through.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So is cypherpunk a cult or a movement? Yeah. So the way that I try and explain subcultural movements online is the same way that it is that I try and explain, the metaphor that I use is music, right? So different kinds of music come and go in style, right? And there's like a new movement, punk comes along, and maybe you knew about punk before it is that it became poppy, like Green Day, right? And so the people who were into it at the beginning are, purists and saying these bands are punk. And then I knew this band when they only had a cassette, and I knew them when their first 45 came out. And then they do their first album and everybody's heard of this band. And then by the third album, the world knows about them and they're no longer cool. Does that mean that they're any less punk or any, what I mean, than they were at the beginning, right? And it happens socially, especially in DJ culture, that you go to the club and there's this vibe and there's this cool shit going on and the cool people are coming around, right? And then it starts growing and percolating out, and the crowds change, but there's always people that are central to the movement and maybe are the people that are looked up to. The way it is that now the cypherpunk OGs like myself and others that are older and just lived through this stuff are just normal people that had the luck of being in, curious about these things at those times, right? So I think that there are culty aspects to it, of course, because people love cults. People are passionate, and in the area of nerdiness, anything online culture, people can get quite obsessive and quite otaku, about stuff, right? And so if you're a culty personality, then you'll probably express crypto in a culty way. And if you're a culty personality, you express cypherpunk in that way, any of these things. And that's why we have Bitcoin maximalists. That's why we have tribalism in the different chain communities. It's why we have lunar punk and why it is that we have solar punk. It's just like anything across society, right? So anytime that anybody's messianic about their belief system, then it becomes culty. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I guess I don't know if you can hear, I have sirens in the background. They're coming for me, ladies and gentlemen. They've driven by, so not this time. Yeah, I think, like you said, there's cult aspects to maybe cypherpunk or some subcultures, but I don't think cypherpunk has such a strong cultish vibe compared to Bitcoin maximalism or maybe some other subcultures.
It's definitely a broader, philosophical, literary, and
it's
conceptual.
broader. Exactly. Yeah.
And I love how you play with all these thematics in your work. I mean, you're constantly, challenging these memes and ideas and
Yeah.
things that you're fixated on.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I think that I see that so maybe it does speak to the cultish topic, but I see, like you said earlier, we need, even like, let's say you don't like NIM because it has a token that's not Bitcoin, but we still need to try these systems out. This is all really new stuff. We're all people forget how new all of crypto, blockchain, a lot of this new privacy technology. This is all breakthrough, edge of the razor stuff. We need to try a lot of different things, and I think it's dangerous to try to divide the communities too much, like Ethereum against Bitcoin and all of these things. Sometimes I play with that a little bit, but usually in a playful way, because I think in the end, a lot of us are really similar, and we should try to find similarities while still having a discussion. And
I mean, you do a lot. You do a ton of public commentary as an artist that I'm too lazy to do.
You mean the art stuff, or what do you mean, just in general?
I mean, in general. So, like, I really appreciate your willingness to engage with stuff with ideas, and as an artist, right? I kind of like left that part of my personal manifestation behind me 10, 15 years ago when I got into crypto, right? I never really felt, I mean, you've been doing it from the beginning, man, with fucking Pepe's and Counterparty and whatever. You've been there like locked up from all where the technology all along. You've been there thematically and mimetically as well, right? And I want to say that, like, I share your politics and I share your point of view about these things, and I appreciate you because I'm too lazy to do it. Right?
Well, but you're doing your own thing. So I think the general thing, as far as the art, NFTs, and a lot of the ways I look at it is, and also we're having that right now with NIM and privacy in general, is you have a group of we have built an established group of people that are interested in privacy technology. Let's say, for example, we have some diehards that are going to be into it regardless because they're already in. But how do we get people that, one, are not that technical? Maybe they're not that technical. Maybe they don't understand crypto economics. That could be another sector of people, but they understand how to make art, or they understand something is wrong with the system, and they've actually experienced some kind of repression due to some kind of government surveillance. So we have to figure out how to reach, these people that are, they might not vibe with the look of cypherpunks, for example. They might not vibe with that, how it exists now, but they might vibe with some weird if we visualize like what we're talking about in some artistic way, well, they might vibe with that. We might get a new, a new impulse of people. That's what I fear, and I've seen in movements in the past. Not enough new impulse, too much staying. It's easy to sell or call it sell to like your core group. We have to branch. We have to be able to branch out, and I think bringing in creativity. I mean, that's my way, and humor is my way to do it. And I think humor is underestimated a lot. I mean, humor people get, that's mostly a lot of the memes, but it really does sometimes it does tell some uncomfortable truths, and it keeps us modest. When the comedy comes back at you, then you're it keeps you a little modest there.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think that, and if we want to talk about a really, really successful, movement and group that's developed over the last year, is the Web3 Privacy Now group around Mikolo and P, of which Nim is also, a partner of, and that has definitely been because they brought in creativity, right? I mean,
yes,
there's
they're
a
doing
whole
it.
aspect of the vision that community is building together that includes, playlists, DJ playlists, and artworks and whatever. And it's still got this dark thematic whatever, but then you have what it is that Rachel Rose O'Leary is building with DarkFi, right? This whole this whole colorful mythology that goes back to the female and the forest, and I mean, there's a lot of creative energy happening around also solar punk and whatever, and everybody's concerned about privacy now, right? And so at HCPP, asked Matthias Tarsiewicz from Riyadh, I said, so like, and he's an old school cypherpunk as well, and he was like picking apart, so where it is that we've been successful and where it is that we've failed, and we agree that we haven't been able to bring new people in, right? Because of our iconography, because of our dark nature, because of this sort of this cultural jump that people need to make about being dark web. You know what I mean? Whereas we,
Right.
mean it in a different way, but for the general person, that's Silk Road and drugs and whatever. And for us, that's just like one aspect of what freedom to transact means. And I said, and I asked Matthias, I was like, so like, do we need a new word? What would the new word be into the future? And he said cipher pop, right? And I was like, okay, yeah, I like that. Cipher pop. Maybe we need to be cipher poppy in the next phase. Yeah. And a lot of people have already attacked me for this, but I dropped it online and said cipher pop. And it's like, I'm a cipher stand, like maybe we need to be a little bit more colorful and Hello Kitty-ish, you know what I mean, to actually bring people in that have a concern about their stuff. But I guess I recall that after Snowden dropped all of the surveillance package, and all of a sudden we weren't conspiracy theorists anymore. And, one of the late night talks, I think it was Conan O'Brien, did a thing where they went on the street and, asked people about, do they want, if they've ever sent dick pics, genital pics to each other. And basically most people are concerned about the government seeing their junk. That's about the level that people care about at privacy, right? They want to be able to, everybody's flirting with each other, but they don't want the government to see their junk. Yeah, just only the people that they want to see.
Well, that's just because I think that's the only level. That's the first. Maybe that's just the immediate thing that they think of. Because like metadata, like most people don't even understand that really the power of who is talking to whom, when, and how much, and not even that they sent a dick pic is really the information. They just is what you can really discern a lot of. I mean, and just think about it as normal surveillance in the physical sphere. The cops watch you, and they watch you go in a house, but they don't know what you did in the house. They're just noting you went in this house for this amount of time, this many times a week. That's the metadata. And that's what they can really get they can really discern a lot of your behavior from. And that's something that I think that like the people on the street that we're worried about their dick pics, they're not getting. So that we have to figure out ways of educating people. We're doing it, but it's definitely a process. And I think we shouldn't leave out. I always say, what was my slogan? No, I forgot mine. We have to have a better party than the legacy system. So our party has to be more fun than their party. And the only way we can do that is to be really authentic and not be edge lords. So edge lord is like guarding your cult, like, oh, you're not pure enough, and so on. Doesn't mean you don't stand for anything and criticize people, but you get edge lord ish. Everybody can get like that a little bit. They're like guarding their cool little group. We need to really check ourselves when we get too much like an edge lord.
So I think that this is why, NIM releasing a VPN is exactly that, right?
Exactly.
VPN is something that people can relate to, right? A virtual
Yes.
private network, right? So I can protect, where it is that I'm going on the net, or I can reduce the amount of metadata that any agency or government or any data miner has to analyze about what it is that I'm doing, and doing that with, and one of the first applications was Telegram chat, and this was very, very early on, 8 months ago, a year ago, that you could use that, and
more
now,
than 8 months. I mean, yeah, there was the NIM Connect. That was like the
right?
first. The first use was being able to connect Keybase or Telegram to the NIM Mixnet. Through the SOCKS 5 proxy. And just for all the technical people out there, we still support that. And you can connect most crypto wallets using our SOCKS 5 proxy. We have a SOCKS 5 client. So you can look on our GitHub and find it, and you can then send your transaction through the Mixnet. So I know you can connect a Monero wallet, but most crypto wallets have a SOCKS 5 proxy that you can use. That's a very technical thing. It's separate from the VPN. But I totally agree. The VPN is a commercial product. It's designed for everyday people, not just crypto freaks. And like we say, privacy loves company. We need a lot of people to use privacy infrastructure for it to be effective. We now need a lot of people to make noise, as we say. So the NIM network, generates noise, and the more users, the more noise there is to kind of help cover up what you're doing. And that is a good segue, because I wanted to, as far as like getting people involved, we have right now a campaign called Bring the Noise, and we're going to post it in the chat. Our backstage producers, here we go, Bring the Noise. And basically all you do is download NIM VPN beta, which is right now totally free, and you use the anonymous mode, and then you sign up using the directions, and then you send a picture of how long you were using the anonymous mode. Basically, it's a contest who can use the anonymous node the longest. That's all. That's basically what it is. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. We just want you to see how long, like marathon VPN usage, essentially. And it's called Bring the Noise. So I want everybody here in the chat, you better be doing it now. Maybe you have an extra laptop or extra computer or extra Android. I'm sure everyone here has extra Android sitting around their house. Put an VPN on it, Bring the Noise, because not only is that going to help spread the word about an VPN, we need mega stress tests. Try to break the Mixnet, guys. See if you guys can be responsible for breaking this, because we need maximal use. And this is one of the ways that we're doing it. And I really like this campaign. We have to figure out a way to stop Sybil attacks. Everybody knows about that. So that's why you have to sign up. There's a few steps. But basically all it is a use the VPN marathon. And I think it's a great way for us to test, and you get rewards. You can totally get some NIM token rewards from it. So that's what you're going to be doing after this call, right?
Oh, I'm just like already like reading the blog post. Yeah.
Great. Well, give us live feedback. Is it too confusing, or what would you add, or what's your idea for the next campaign? If you have any off the top of your head, we've got you live right now.
Makes me think of that. So what was it? Come on, bring the noise, all
It
you girls
does.
and boys, right? What
Yes,
was
yeah.
that? What band was
You
that?
could, hey,
Come on, feel the noise.
you could totally join NIM Squad League and have as your mission NIM theme song. Bring if you want to do it, if you want to do a cappella.
Come on, feel the noise.
It might get funding. Who knows? If you produce it really well, that we could use it on social media or some crazy place like TikTok or other social media, and it
Come
has
on,
you.
man. I thought like the way to do it these days is to not produce it really well. That's how you go viral. If you produce it
Well, I
really
mean,
well.
like produce it. Well, I mean, produce it well in the sense creatively well. Like get your dread. You've got these nice dreads now. Get the dreadlocks out. You know,
So it's like open up the
do some
dreadlocks
dance
and
thing.
like bang
There we
and like
go. And
bang
do
my
the
head. Like so
yes.
like
Bring the
just
noise.
a
So
little bit
right
of
now
this
he's
going
bringing the
on.
noise live.
So like, you know.
Bringing the noise live. Everyone in the chat, if you're already bringing the noise for the bringing the noise campaign, type bring the noise in the chat. I want to see everybody. Should be everybody in the chat should be doing it. And in Telegram, I want you to post. Go on and give us your screenshots of your bring the noise so far. And
I don't know, man.
I think
I can't seem to
yeah,
like post in this chat, you know.
we'll figure it out. In the meantime, while everyone is bringing the noise, we're going to go to questions because we did answer one question, but
Yeah.
let's go ahead and get to some of the questions, and we will get to them.
Let's
So
see. Could there be an HCPP in Latin America in the future?
that is a great question.
So this is really excellent. So a group of hardcore cypherpunks and crypto anarchists who are not so happy about the demise of Parallelly Polis as a location in Prague have gotten together and are putting together a community to continue supporting the cypherpunk ideals and events and whatever. And it's called Parallelly Polis Null, which means zero. There's going to be a website, and there's going to be a GitHub repo with all of the assets from Parallelly Polis and all of the archive of things that have been done, and a group of people that are going to be encouraging people to use these assets to build community around the world, because we've all recognized that maybe the values and activities are more important than actually trying to maintain a location. So that was the big learning, right? Is that maintaining one physical location over the course of a year, just so you could do a conference, you know, twice a year, and you can sell people, you know, coffee using Bitcoin, which was the original, you know, concept, just doesn't live anymore, but the values and are valid, right? So if somebody wants to do a HCPP in Latin America, there's no reason why it is that they can't put together, you know, the group of people and find a location and invite, you know, core members that are happy to
Yeah,
travel,
definitely.
speak, for that to happen. So I could imagine it could happen in the future. Would be my
Nice.
answer.
Yeah, big shout out to NIM community Latin America. We've got strong community. We've got some squads, lots of people in the NIM community in Latin America. All right, let's find another question. Let's try to do some more questions. Here we go. I think one is going to load.
Oh, people are like fun on to this. Bring the noise, man.
Yeah, that's
BTN.
nice.
Bring the noise.
Okay, let me try to sort. And also, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you like my hosting. This is the first time I've hosted the community call alone, except the really pin some of them top right. I'm trying to find the pin. I'm doing this live, ladies and gentlemen. We're figuring out the tech here. I'm trying to go to the old questions. Let's see here.
So there's another question.
What's your MySpace?
What's my what?
When someone asks, what's your MySpace? I think he's trying to say we're old. That was good.
Yeah, MySpace. My MySpace is artificialized TV. That was my,
Oh, there you go.
So yeah. Am I casually
Great.
smoking a joint on the call? No, I'm smoking Salbei, sage. So I'm actually giving
Okay.
up nicotine. And
Nice.
so I'm not a
So,
joint smoker.
yeah, Dion said, why is Theo so serious? Probably you caught me looking really serious. Well, I wasn't 100% sure my connection was working or something like that. Or we were really deep into some intellectual talk. We have, some people that joined the community 2021. Really appreciate that. Let's see here. What other questions we have? I'm going through.
What would you consider to be the wildest success for Bitcoin besides the price jump? From Alex.
Go for it. What do you think?
So I'm pretty blown away that we have government sovereign wealth funds purchasing Bitcoin, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty blown away that it is that we have ETFs, and I'm pretty blown away that we have 2 or 3 countries that have made it legal tender. I mean, I don't think many people really recognize, but El Salvador choosing to recognize Bitcoin as a sovereignly approved currency forced the city of London to make exchange rates for Bitcoin. Yeah, because every sovereign nation has the right to say what it is that they accept for currency, and that actually had a large knockdown effect that gave Bitcoin a lot of international credibility as a commodity, and forced changes to happen in banking in the city of London, which then had knockdown effects elsewhere. So I'm pretty blown away by it after 15 years for this to be a political issue, right? That Trump and Kennedy are going to Bitcoin Miami or whatever.
That's true.
I'm blown away by it because it's literally the last thing that we wanted, right? We wanted it. The cyberpunks, the crypto anarchists wanted to have an alternative system. The last possible thing that we want is government recognition, and yet here it is that we have government recognition, and if we're honest about it, Bitcoin is already over as a people's money because it's already being integrated into the existing monetary system. The price movements now it's a macro. Basically, Bitcoin front runs between 6 hours and 6 weeks, other macro trends, because it's the most liquid 24-hour asset class that people can get their cash for. The green-haired goblin, the dollar is still king. So I'm surprised about all of these things happening so fast. And the price follows narrative in that case. So I don't really find Bitcoin's price to be surprising. I think it's incredibly undervalued. I think that anybody that's selling Bitcoin that's been a holder for a long time or even a short term is just a fucking idiot at this point, because it will continue to go up. But Bitcoin established a complete a complete new sector of economics and jobs and whatever, the whole cryptocurrency experimentation space. And so I think that no one coin will ever achieve true decentralization, right? So we have different coins that have, like, Litecoin has better payment processing qualities. Monero has higher, privacy. Ethereum has the composability. I think that what's gotten everybody, caught everybody surprised is that what if the one use case we get out of all of this is stable coins, privately issued, and
what if the
what if that's the use out of this?
What if the use case is to put cool pictures on blockchains?
Right.
It could be. It could be. I think the wildest success would be if we have a true dollar collapse, then we could have a chance that it does become a people's currency, like you said. I mean, if we had a true dollar collapse, you had Bitcoin becomes the go-to asset for that people trust, as far as internet doing any kind of international deals, lots of other things, then that would be a big success. We've got a few more questions. Let's try to do some quick fire. What do you recommend for newcomers in the world of anarchy and cypherpunk? Wow, that's a big question.
Well, definitely not the Sons of Anarchy on Netflix.
Definitely not. Definitely not some of the Sons of Anarchy. Maybe do some read some of the old school guys. Read some Bakunin. Read some I don't know, Foucault. I don't know, and see how that blends with some of the modern writings and concepts. Are there parallels? What's the difference?
So really I would say,
what would you say?
Cryptoanarchist.wiki.
Oh, there you go. Easy answer.
Is a really good entry point. And I think I don't think that we talk about our founding literature often enough.
That's true.
Neil Stephenson's writing, Bruce Sterling's writing, our, Snow Crash and the Baroque and Cryptonomicon, and Cory Doctorow's writing. Man, read anything from Cory Doctorow. His young adult novels are written so simply, and he's been writing about privacy technology and the fight, against IP rights from Disney, and all of these intersected issues. Cory Doctorow's writing is fabulous, right? So I don't think we talk enough about the literature of our generation as an entry point for getting into crypto anarchy or anarchy of itself. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. I think it's interesting lately to also read the classic anarchists and just see where some of this lines up. I'm not a doctrine of one of the classic directions necessarily, but I think it's cool to review some of those and see, hey, I remember that a long time ago, and now we're doing all this crypto anarchy stuff. Where does that fit in? I wonder what those guys would say now, just as a thought experiment. Okay, we have a few questions that are go. Yeah, go on.
The title that I gave you for this episode was, death and rebirth in the face of paradigm shifts and the time of consequences, right? So I'm going to answer his question. Do people care about privacy? No, I don't think that people care about privacy, right? They generally don't. We haven't been able to convince people why it's important. Where it is going to slowly become important to people is the idea of fungibility. Yeah, as cash is disappearing, right? And as we have, programmable money, everybody's going to be attaching sort of conditions on how it is that you can transact. We started that. We set that in motion, and it's inevitable that governments and systems and institutions are going to pick it up and pervert it. Yeah. But as it becomes that we don't have fungibility, so $1 is $1, and people have always said, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. We already have KYC and non-KYC Bitcoin, right? This is where it is that privacy will start to become important to people when they realize that they can't transact in any way with a fungible, unit of account, right? That's where it'll change. And these are the times of consequence that I'm talking about. We've made a bed and we're going to sleep in it. And what is the bed that we've made? We've allowed ourselves to, be gaslit by narcissistic personalities. We've separated ourselves from any sort of shared reality narrative, left, right. Nobody can talk to each other anymore. And there's a bunch of us that wouldn't even call ourselves as in the middle, that are looking at the dialogue that everybody's having, whether it's right, left, or centrist, and saying, none of this language serves me anymore to express how it is that I experience the world and what it is that I'd like to seek happen in the world becoming a better place. I think that all of the isms, all of the languages of the last century are so polluted, and that is why it is that we have people screaming at each other and not even listening to each other anymore, because the terms don't even mean anything. People on both sides of the fence calling each other fascists. I mean, we've lost any sort of capability to have respect for people that have a different point of view from ourselves. And that's the time of consequence that we're living through. And so the opportunity that I see for dreamweavers is in these communities that it is that we're building. It's why I'm investing my time in Web3 privacy now, is why it is that I'm here, with you as a colleague at events, right? And on different sort of media, is to let people know that, hey, there are alternatives that you can get involved with. They're not the solution for right now, but the stronger it is that we use and play with these technologies, the more likely it is that they will become a standard that functions and works for people. We haven't solved it all yet. We're still, like you said, Bitcoin's a test, NIM's a test, DarkFi is a test, all of these things, Ethereum's a test. None of it has established itself really as the pure use case or how it is that things work, but we have a general idea that things are going in this direction. And my hope is that at some point, institutions, whether they're corporate entities or our government entities, understand the necessity for public-private key pair technology, which is all it is that we're talking about. How do you securely log in and communicate and transact data with each other? We're living in a paradigm right now where capitalism is extracting that info, and it's not only ruining all of our lives, right? All of this metadata extraction and all of it, it's ruining companies' ability to, freely trade and develop, together. So we need privacy at the base layer for society to actually function. And so, this is what Julian Assange was talking about, before it is that he went into the embassy, and before it is that he went into Belmarsh. He was sitting around with Google, with Eric Schmidt, and they brought out a book, and Julian was saying, you know what? The only way to fight against this surveillance capitalism is to accelerate the inconsistencies that are already present in the system. Like, this shit has got to fucking die. So if we stick a wrench in the works and we force this corrupt system to of its own weight to collapse, then there's a space for something new. And so that's my hope with cryptocurrency, crypto economics, crypto communications, cryptographic key pairs, all of these things, is that as this shit just comes inevitably together because it's inefficient, are we fast enough to have the systems for the next level? Yeah, when this stuff collapses. And I'm not talking about economic collapse. We're living through civilizational collapse of shared narratives. Nobody has the upper hand. Yeah.
True. Okay, we're getting towards the end. I will give a shout out. Someone said YouTube won't let me mention crimethink.org, and I want to give a shout out to CrimeThink, fellow North Carolina peeps out there. CrimeThink in the house. And we will now be doing the POAP. So the POAP is Proof of Participation NFT. And here we go. So go to that link and you'll see some wonderful art that I created.
Get out.
And someone rang my doorbell right when I'm live. And the test phrase is beta testor. And Exile, I wanted to ask you if you're interested in, or Michael, if you're interested in making a POAP for the next episode next week, even though you're not on. I'm going to ask each guest now if they'll make one. It could be any style. You can see the style. The style I have is about our Bring the Noise, everyone doing beta testing on anonymous mode. but it could be a next one. And you only have a short time period to get the, it could be the police. You only have a short period to get the NFT POAP. So it's really geared to live people that are watching live.
All right.
And there is a guy, there is someone in the community, and I think he has over 60 POAPs. How many in the chat? How many POAPs have you collected? Just post, even if it's just one. I'm just curious who's here now. How many? Password is beta testor. Pawnflake. Yeah, Pawnflake has over 60 or 70 POAPs, which is amazing. I think that means he's been basically to every community call ever that had a POAP, which is pretty impressive of a collection there. Any final words?
I'm just sort of like going through this POAP thing and like wondering if I really want to fucking give Nimsit Technologies my fucking password to complete this step.
Okay, what password for what?
I don't know.
Okay, good question. Good question. I think the password a beta testor gives you that's the secret phrase. So you have to be live here, and then it will shut down like in an hour or 30 minutes. It'll be out, and you won't be able to get it.
So I'm on screen number 3. It says submit password, and I'm wondering, like, if it's
beta
just
testor.
If that's my wallet password that it's asking for,
no.
or you're
beta testor. I'll put it in our
beta.
Here, I just sent it to you in our internal chat.
Okay, beta. All right, man. So yeah.
So everyone, want to hit that bring the noise. Tell all your friends about the Bring the Noise competition too. We need as many people as we can get on the Bring the Noise competition. We need people trying to break the NIM network. We need all the testers out there. And like I said, maybe you have an extra device at home. Just run NIM VPN anonymous mode on it all the time while you're at work. We also need people to actually be doing stuff on the anonymous. Try to watch YouTube. See what you can do on this thing. We need everyone to run it. We really need to bring the noise. Post your pics, follow the directions.
All you girls and boys,
all you girls and boys, bring the noise, and everyone else that's not a girl and boy, you can bring the noise too.
All right, man. Submitting my membership. You guys minting your membership?
I think that's what it is, but I will get the technicals out of it. Ladies and gentlemen, everyone else, Nimsters, crypto freaks, degens, basement dwellers, and everybody in between, this was the NIM community call with Theo Goodman and X-Out Surfer. I appreciate everybody for listening. See you guys next time.
Bang your dreads.